So where is Eric and John? I talked to them earlier and they said they were here. Okay, so with that, I'll go ahead and start. Ladies and gentlemen, to call to order the special meeting of the Board of Selectmen. It's now Tuesday, June 17th. The time now is 5:47 p.m. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excuse me. So we're missing the guest of honor. They're probably down in Public Works still. So with that, I make a motion that we take a short recess until we have the Public Works folks here. Okay, all in favor of a recess?
Aye.
Aye. So we stand at recess 5:48. We are going to leave everything on. So just we got to be guarded in what we say and do. I don't have. Well, I guess I could go and turn the recording. No dancing. No doing business. Oh, yeah, we got dancing online. There you go. Terrific. I don't know where those guys are. I must have right out for make a call. See if I'm going to Manhattan.
Yeah, seriously.
I know, but you know. Yeah. I don't know if you just got to give me the key back. Yeah. Or get me here.
Yeah.
Or you
Yeah, those are special keys.
out for a second.
I like it.
Okay, calling the meeting back to order. Our guest of honor is here. First off, any correspondence?
No,
Any letters regarding this that are recent?
there
Nothing
was one that came in at 5:25 that I haven't had a chance. to
Oh, okay.
distribute.
regarding this issue?
Yes,
Take a peek. We can do that right electronically. Melanie, I gotta,
when did you receive the letter? It came in at 5:25 this evening. Okay.
oh, I don't have it. Was it a first like an email?
So I just have one set.
The participant is on screen. She's my wife, Joanne, and she's,
Is that who said it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
and she's expressing favor to move forward with what you're going to do.
Okay. Request for approval of engineering funding addressing flooding and water issues. Okay. So let the record reflect we have a positive endorsement to move forward tonight. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so basically our new business is a working meeting with the Department of Public Works to discuss drainage issues in the town. We have gone through for some period of time and worked to identify places across town where we've had major issues in drainage. Obviously, the August 18th storm exacerbated a lot of those, but there are those that have been an issue for a long period of time. And our goal is to let the other members of the Board of Selectmen too see what, you know, the Public Works Director and the assistant there, John, have been working on all this time and maybe prioritize what we're going to do. So I'll turn it over to Eric Swenson, our Director of Public Works.
Thanks, Dan. You know how I can make this insurance? So, Rich, Dan, and Brian, unfortunately, the printer ran out of ink. We were trying to print you off
Oh,
hard copies. Sorry for the last month.
is this?
This is just exactly what I'm gonna put on.
Oh, it's all
screen,
one? Or is
But
this-
because there's a lot of
Okay,
detail in the images, we're hoping to get you a hard copy.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately, it's only one.
so there's one hard copy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, let me get started. So,
We'll do a little, put
I don't
this for you
know,
guys to show.
Brian or
this.
Rich,
I've seen it more.
You
Okay.
want-
I don't really think it is.
Oh, it literally, okay, okay. All right. Okay, so we'll just go with the screen, but, yeah, like Dan, like you said, you had asked us after, August 18th to kind of compile everything town-wide in terms of, that was a drainage issue. So we've done that. That's what we're going to talk about here. I will kind of put a disclaimer. This is not everything. There are some other things we're working on. Most notably, well, besides all the small stuff that we're generally working on that wasn't unique in any way, the couple of big ones are Route 53 under the Metro North Railroad Bridge that always floods, and everyone's aware of that. That's a DOT issue. It's a state road, and DOT owns that land, and they're pretty much saying they're going to take care of it. There's some beaver dam issues in there that they deal with occasionally. But although we know about it, it's really not our study to do or design to make. That's one. The other major one is McCower Circle, which is already a FEMA project. That was the only thing identified by FEMA after the August 18th flood that was really reimbursable as a, I forget the term, FEMA term is basically
It was storm damage, right?
damage to something that existed versus information to a problem that doesn't necessarily have a solution yet. So that's a big pipe we've already done with the survey and gotten in a preliminary design for that. So that's underway, and that was something that FEMA funded immediately because it was an immediate need. So moving on to the next slide here. This is basically the list. We have 7 priority drainage projects and 5 less critical. Like I said, we didn't want to talk about every little thing, but this basically covers the bulk of it and really what we need to investigate further. Obviously, part of the process here was to not just go through and identify these, but also to prioritize those. So although it's not called out specifically here, I think, as you know from our last Board of Selectmen meeting, Colonial Drive is our #1 priority project, and the downtown culvert area is the second. So those are really the top 2. But like we said, to kind of look at the town as a whole, we did want to, this is why you asked for this meeting, to explain all these other locations. So what I'm going to do is go through each of these priority projects and to more briefly go through the less critical ones. And hopefully, my goal here is really to get you guys to kind of have as comprehensive an understanding as possible so you can make the best decision for the town. So you're seeing everything we're seeing in other words. So the first one, we've talked about this a little bit. This is the area of Colonial Drive. What you've got, this image here on the left is a schematic showing where all the pipes are and on an aerial map. Generally speaking, can you see my mouse on this screen? Really? Not really. So I'll just kind of try to explain this. So the road on the far left is Benedict Road. That kind of forms a ridge line. The second from right street, kind of in the middle top of the image on the left there, Ridgedale Road, also kind of forms a ridge. That kind of creates the topography is basically a bowl, where Colonial Drive is essentially in the bottom of that in the center. This area has been an issue since the 1970s. There's been various temporary solutions put in there, but the root of the problem really is still there. It's almost 74 acres drain into this area, in this drainage area. Ultimately, what happens is you see that pond kind of in the middle of the screen there. It passes through there to those pipes that kind of go down and to the right, and it kind of winds its way over to the right to that pond all the way on the right side of the image. So that's where it's going. We believe there's pinch points in there around Walnut Hill Road that we've already looked into. Let me see here. I think you're aware several homeowners have experienced flooding in their basements and garages as well as on their properties whenever we see heavy rain. So this is obviously number one, we've heard about this, we want to move forward on this, is what I'd asked you about at the last meeting. So I'll get to it, but we already have a proposal to start a study. It's about $20,000. I think I mentioned that. So we can move on to the next step there. I don't know, John, is there anything on the right here?
That was just showing the drainage area.
Yeah, the image on the right is just, it's kind of hard to see, but it's a blue dashed outline just showing the whole area that drains there, just to give you a sense of how much water really kind of collects there. So.
It's also worth noting a couple of things, because obviously we've had calls over this. There's the pond that's next to Colonial Drive, which most people feel like is the culprit here. That's the pond. Backing up, it's not the pond. There's an engineering study done many years ago. That was the one that was handwritten and we had found. And I think one of the neighbors had brought it forth too, but we had found it prior. It was on file or somewhere. Anyway, I actually jumped on it. It was very clear that beyond the pond, they had tried to put in two pipes going out to fix it, but they realized the whole thing had not been designed for like a 1 in 50-year storm. Which of course now the town's goal is 1 in 100. That when we swung August 18th blew away. But other storms out there have repeatedly given problems, which everybody's aware of. And it's like that downstream, like you said, where the pinch points are going to that other pond. That are the issue. So I think that's what most of the study is looking at. It's looking at from that other pond on the far right, and then working backwards. That's what they're looking to see, because that's what needs to be redesigned.
Although we know there is a pinch point coming out of that pond, we don't fix that problem and have it right downstream.
When you say pinch point, is that because they have like a 90 instead of a curve? You know, so the water's like just kind of hitting it and backing up?
Yeah.
Because there's no curve in it.
Yeah, so there are a few things going on there. So the pipes coming out of the pond, they hit perpendicular to the main line up on the hill. The other thing that we found in the studies is that the pitch of the pipe is hardly anything. It's really minimal, which
Obviously, that's
slows things down. And there might just be some deficiencies because the pipe is old. We had the system cambered back in November. Nothing is critical, but it's old pipe that could be contributing to the.
What's the elevation difference from the pond and where the beach is there? Is there decent elevation or not?
So the other thing that we think that limits the elevation change that we can do is there's other structures along the way that we're meeting. The pond is at the invert at the pond is 471.6, and then where it meets Walnut Hill Road, it's 471.39.
So you only have 3 inches of pitch and how many feet?
Quite a bit. Yeah.
And by the way, the entrance to the pond is 470.
So you're relying on static pressure to push it through, basically?
Yeah, it's
Right.
it was never, I mean, I would probably, it'd be fair to say it was never looked at comprehensive. These pieces were put in piecemeal and no one really thought. That's why we want to look at this one piece and also all the way down to the.
So what's the elevation of the furthest pond on the right?
450. Goes down. Yeah. So I think about 20.
Eric, when you're dealing with like a system this big, like I know what a septic, the required pitch is, like what's the rise over on, like how far is it supposed to drop along the way to actually make it to the, like?
I think it's similar to a septic system, 1/4 inch over a foot.
Yep. Or
So that's-
And the new design, what criteria within the design for you? Did you design for that storm we had?
No, that's the thing. Nobody designs for 1,000-year storm. As Dan mentioned, we want to aim for 100-year storm. That's what newer, larger developments, I believe, are required. I think it's in the zoning code, it's required to have 100-year storm. But town roads are only required to have a 10-year storm for catch basis. 10 and 25 years, 25 years. Obviously, we're going to try to do something higher than that here, knowing that if we're going to excavate, unless there's a huge cost differential, but I think that should be an issue that prevents us from doing something higher than beyond. Because again, we don't know how you know, there's a lot of talk about storms are getting worse. We don't know how that's going to be handled in certain stormwater regulations of the state, whether they're going to just, you know, the numbers in there to represent storms that are worse, or say that, you know, oh, now you have to design to a what was a less frequent storm. I'm saying,
The design be looking at going through private properties or just down the current
I think we have to cross the private
properties.
properties.
Try to,
On one of the inlets or exits of that pond, the first pond, we have an easement. I think it's the exit.
I think we need them on both areas.
I never found the actual easement before we went in.
Okay.
It was on a map that said proposed easement. I've never found the paperwork, but that's Emily's job. But they kind of said,
That's why we have a town attorney.
yep.
So that's obviously part of, as we design it.
Yeah. The $1 million question is, if we spend the 20,000, what is that gonna give us? Is it just a preliminary study and then we need more engineering, or are they gonna actually come up with a plan that we can look at and say, these are our costs? Like, well, what are we spending 20,000?
I can share with you this proposal if you want to look at it. But basically it's an initial study, correct me if I'm wrong, basically just look at the whole area. And I think it's not going to come up with shovel ready, it's not conceptual. And conceptual costs, so that we could go back to you guys and say, okay, here's what the final design's going to cost, here's the construction's going to cost. And kind of, and then we'll go, okay, well, this is 25 years old, whatever it is. It's costs.
Yeah, the proposal also, they're gonna model the existing system, run scenarios, see what its capacity is to maybe find the pinch point or find efficiencies. And then I think they had some, you know, light concepts for this, but that, of course, you need to do construction documents. That's not part of this.
Will it include an estimate, like when you get this, we'll give you an estimate on the engineering costs?
Yes.
So they'll, and are they actually gonna be in the field, or do they just do GIS mapping and just look at the old maps, or will they come out and actually put things on the ground and, you know?
They have already come out, they've sent their, a couple of their engineers out, because they've already done some preliminary steps for, get to this, pipe cammering, of the pipes that were suspected were clogged up, and, giving survey, no survey, has to do the survey.
Is that included where they'll have someone check the elevations and everything? Or is that
Yeah.
something that, so they'll come out and
Yeah.
check all the elevations, make sure that.
Yeah.
And also what's on file matches what they're seeing in the
Yeah,
field.
yeah, so when we get to the design, I think you're getting at, when we get to the design phase, we'll have a survey, talk about the survey, those exact. Yes. Okay. So, thank you. Okay, yeah, thank you for these questions. I've got a lot here, so I'm gonna try and not rush through it. But that was the big one, that was the top priority project. The next one here is also a big one in terms of shared area. This is kind of a trivia. For those who don't know, we have some massive culverts running right underneath downtown. And when I'm talking massive, I'm talking like 5 feet high, big enough to walk through. So going from right to left, yes.
Right now, just the flow of the water.
Yeah. This is Chestnut, I'm sorry, though, this is Chestnut Street here. This is where Nashville comes into it. Right here, there's an open street here, it starts to go into a culvert here. By this piece, right, it goes under Chestnut Street to Karamazowski's. If you ever drive in that behind the wine store, you can go to the left, this is kind of irritation. And
Your life is the
it becomes a street again. Somewhere here it goes back on the ground, goes underneath Greenway Avenue. I think this is Karamazowski's parking lot for the employees. Back there, it daylights again, becomes an open street, makes a left turn. Under Sealy Street, goes underground again, right? Comes up, daylights again, it's creek. If you
in back behind those properties, you can see it. Then it finally goes into this, massive culvert that, this section here, all the way to the end of Peach Barn Square, it's like ancient, it's a dry stack stone culvert from 1800 out of the it's huge. It's a manifold here where, we have the fleet, bus, and then it cuts across School Street and this center lawn, all the way to the post office and, that's one area. It's a creek right there. So, there were kind of various complaints that came in at various points in time, depending on storms. We've got about 5 of them here. They're not shown on this, but, they're listed here, and that's kind of all got wrapped into one thing, but we want our, obviously, when you think about it, you realize, wow, that's right underneath some of the major areas of downtown. It's kind of critical infrastructure. Let's make sure that this is, functioning well. The section over on the right, this is probably the bigger section that was, Rich, you probably.
Yeah, it's probably
About 2006, I believe. Yeah. And then the second intersection was probably underneath Greenwood. The DOT put that in like 94.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
They put it, I believe they put a double
Yeah.
culvert in there. And one is sealed up, but
Yes. Yeah. It's weird. It's,
And then,
one is sealed up. The only one they needed in the line was, why they did it, they made a wider for future, but
yeah.
and then probably the Carol's one strategy is what that they put on there. So anyway,
And in front of the visible center, the plan stays concrete. So I'm not sure if that was replaced more recently than,
in the front of the municipal.
yeah, it's
That was back in the '60s, probably.
so anyway, I think, before we got here, before our time, the town had even put out a RFP for a drainage study, but I don't think it went any further. I don't know if you want your,
so it was around the same time that the Chestnut Culvert was worked on. I guess there was some conflict between the town and Deep about that culvert, and Deep was supposed to fund the study for the downtown drainage, and they looked into funding kind of flopped. But we do have 4 proposals from engineering firms from the early 2000s.
Eric, if we do these studies, does it put us in a position where if a grant comes out, we're able to apply for it, or do we have to have all the engineering and design done to be able to apply for a grant? But like, does the study get us to the point where if the state says, hey, with all the impervious surface stuff and stuff's going on, we're going to offer grants, are we able with this to be able to capture one of the grants, or do we have to take it to the next step?
I would say the short answer is yes, but it depends on the grant. The brick grants, which I forgot to mention, the history of this since Dan asked us to look at this back in the August 18th storm. In March, it was preparing, FEMA had, I forget what BRIC stands for.
Building resilient infrastructure and communities.
Yeah, so they had those grants, those were canceled. And literally was like a week before the deadline. So those would have just been, we were getting help from the state, DEMHS, they were supporting us. Those would have just been descriptions. We didn't have to have even a study for that. Just had to have a description for that. So that would have been great. So we were really, that was kind of a big blow to this whole process when that, hold on that.
And the way those grants work, I mean, they're nailing the city, but the way they worked was the brick grant, you fund the study, and then you can use that study to go after a mitigation grant, which is for design and construction.
You see those coming back, or is it?
I don't know. I believe that was the presidential administration that pulled that out, those brick grants. That is just an announcement on the website. I don't know. Could come back. If it did, I don't know. And I don't, I mean, even our ears to the ground for other grants that are coming out, but most grants generally do require you have to design shovel.
I think if the tree a grant of some kind to come out. I think the issue is that everything I've read, they want to feed into the federal management. But again, the management of problems, not the mitigation of problems. If they can keep it, there's no doubt about that, but I do think, just like the Department of Education, that they're gonna find ways, because it's gonna be an interruption. I don't know how long. But I'm certainly want to be ready.
Yeah, so that, but it pulled not just the program, but it pulled the funding from some of the projects that were already underway. So the guys we've been working with at DMHS kind of just disappeared because they were like up to their next trying to do projects that they something lost the precedent on. So once that kind of, they were very helpful. So I think probably should have a call with them at some point and find out if there's a success for that. I know, Dan, I don't know if you saw Dan, there was an email about some grants coming out. I thought it was from the state, but it looked like it was a competitive thing. It also looked like it had shovel wood.
I think that's what you're talking about. But anyway, yeah, they have a show ready.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this may be close enough to shovel ready. Maybe when we get it in. That's, because sometimes some of these grants, you could wrap the engineering, the final engineering into it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, something to do that as part of the study now, you know.
But I think this is just the most economical way to see what we need to do. Where we need to go.
Yeah, I mean, with something like this, you don't want to redesign the whole, you know,
Yeah.
I'm sure how long this.
If they say the pinch point's the problem, then we correct that.
Yes,
And not even have to wait for a grant.
I see that.
We just do it and get it over with.
Yeah,
true. Nothing else.
yeah. So that would be the idea of this. In the interest of time, I'm going to try to be faster. This is another one. Plum Trees Road here. It's basically basic idea here is here's Plum Trees Road. So I'm going to go out into the section comes in here. So I'm going to go out. The other one, drainage patterns are sort of, there's two fold. There's kind of a general fold that wants to go this way, and another coming this way, and we kind of meet right here. Which affects if you look at homes right here, where it kind of forces its way over. The idea with this design, and this was actually Diggle's one of his ideas here, which is great. It's to take this out of this and shift it over here to dumping up of water flow. So that's I won't read all the text here, but that is
I have a question about that, but then you're going by the mixed well field, does that
that,
approach on the well fields?
no, that's just a schematic arrow.
Yeah,
Not
but-
necessarily.
Yeah.
Wherever that we would avoid area, but there is and I'm not sure.
I think there's a offset. I forgot what it was, 250 feet or something.
Okay.
So that's most of our water.
The water goes.
Yeah, yeah.
Reynolds Ridge and Judd Avenue. This is an area where basically water flowing, vegetated area. Water flows downhill from the Reynolds Ridge property towards Judd, and wash out in various locations in here that have some properties. So that's been kind of a recurring thing. I think essentially, when the engineer looked at it, basically believes we need a detention basin or some kind of detention or retention system to capture that runoff and slow down that so it doesn't become like a Russian. Saxon Road, I think all three of you guys are familiar with that. This has been a flood issue for a while. There's 6 properties, I believe, that are located in the flood zone. The unfortunate thing with this is we had asked FEMA the cheapest solution. So we looked at this with the engineer, we went out. There's really no easy solution to this. If you wanted to do a capital project, you could build a berm of some kind, but that would be very expensive. It would have been less expensive to buy out the homes. We did ask, we did a preliminary inquiry at FEMA about that, but unfortunately none of these are eligible for that. They have to be
Sure. The National Flood Insurance Program.
they have to be, yeah, they have to.
And lost properties.
Yeah, so they kind of actually have to expense loss.
They can't have private insurance. It has
I
to
thought
be through-
they can have insurance.
So if they have private flood insurance, FEMA will accept that. Or it has to be
They have
FEMA.
to be involved in the national program.
Yeah, but also they also have to go through the loss.
Yeah.
So
I can say repetitive things.
yeah, ice action.
Just come up with more.
Yeah, but none of them were, when we asked to see the list, none of them qualified. So,
The other issues surrounding this, I mean, downstream, is where they built the condos from Hudson. There used to be a couple of hockey ponds back on the Alaska property. Like this has been filled in. And people are. No. Yeah, he probably did it, right? But I mean, I don't know if those things are even options or something, but, and some people have said that they filled in on the edge of the stream from the lumber company. I don't know.
yeah,
What can you really do to them? And I'm not trying to be, but I mean, because, in a flood zone, you're
yeah,
getting water.
for those kinds of things, it's not much.
There's probably not much,
Well, that's why we looked at the buyout program.
if they want to sell it, like.
That's
kind of
true.
tough too.
That's
My
true.
house,
We didn't even get to that.
Yeah.
We were just seeing like, they weren't even eligible. Nobody was even eligible. So, yeah, that kind of,
Yeah, what they could do is see if we work the big retention, got lots on the Alaska property again or something.
but nobody knew that full zone. We also asked Matt Eberhard to see if some of these had the lost on the drive. What his house was.
It's so hard to be able to collect on flood insurance because you have to have so many continuous properties that are affected. If one person's house is affected, a lot of times the flood insurance won't kick in because it has to be a certain square footage of flooding and it has to affect, more than one property. If you read like the policies, they're actually pretty horrible to the homeowner. They're not very user friendly. That's for sure. So. Yeah, I mean, I guess we just see what we can do. It's just tough. I mean, that road is
This one's a tough one.
tough, especially where it sits.
Yeah.
The beavers don't know.
And well, that too, yeah.
Well, we've been actively pursuing trapping and removing the
Yeah.
beavers, right?
We just had a trapper come in and catch 10 beavers.
Right.
Various town locations. The problem we have is we can't trap on private property. And in this case, it's there's a large property downstream where I guess it's not filled in. If that property owner doesn't want to cooperate. So it's just kind of has like beyond that, that's
50 years ago, you probably trapped them. So.
Now, plum trees, you need an engineer to look at plum trees.
Years ago, they weren't here.
The one before, like, I'm just
Yeah.
curious, like, so I guess one question I have is there a reason why we didn't like kind of bundle this all into one? Or is it just, you know what I mean? Like if we have 6 more roads.
Well, let me get to the kind of the punchline. I think that will.
Okay, I'll wait for your grant now. We're all the way. It better be good, Eric. That's all I got to tell you.
43 Bridgeway Road, this is an area where, essentially, one-way road at the bottom here is kind of the top of the hill. They're up there, kind of going all the way, it's up, on one-way road for no reason. We're up here at the top of the hill. This is pretty much the direction, flow down to 302. This homeowner has been in touch with this very cooperative to a solution, but basically the problem is that we have some catch basin stream flow here. They are kind of almost always clogged up. But we're actually reluctant to repair them because if we did, it might unleash a torrent going down where that you see that blue line is. So what we need to do is design a system that can take that water down, basically downhill at blue line and connect state system. Obviously, we get permission from the state for that, so we have to be involved with design and so forth. But that's more straightforward, where we pretty much go straight to the design. You don't need a study to tell us.
You mean you think you have water backed up there now?
Yeah,
If you cleared it would come like shooting out.
yeah, even now, there's a little bit of scour in this area, right around here coming off the road. The homeowner put his whole brick wrap there, and, you know, we're concerned if they can fix the problem on the road, it's gonna create the first problem on his property. So,
Because ultimately the catch basins catch the water from the road and dump onto his property anyway. And that's where the water's going.
and that's
They
where
like
we've
it
been
right there.
historically, but, you know, with, I guess it's with, I'm not sure how it's kind of ended up in the situation, but it's just.
Is that currently piped or is that just a?
No, it's open.
Yeah, the basin's daylight to the side of his property.
Yeah, but it's basically just a pipe that opens up right here.
Yeah, okay.
Just flows downhill.
But where those two red arrows are on that plan, it's a steep hill that.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah, there was, yeah. Okay, 10 and 12 Putnam Park Road, these are two property owners who expressed some concern about there's an open drainage channel in their backyard. It will actually 10, that's that.
Where is that located?
So, we have two, so we're here, this is Putnam Park Road. It's a, so we're kind of close to the intersection. This is something. Half a dozen houses down on the right side.
So you know what, Putnam Park Road, where it gets really, really icy in that one big spot, a little turn?
Yes.
This is it.
One of these properties, actually probably multiple, have been contacted repeatedly, the state. We've talked to the state drainage engineer a little bit about this, because they are constantly running fires and fix issues there. But anyway, there's drainage from Short Drive down here, there's an open drainage channel, and this is more of kind of investigation, kind of, we have to solve the mystery, because it really looks like this water is coming from groundwater, not really so much from Short Drive necessarily. And trying to figure out what exactly is the problem. Is it coming from our drainage system? Is it an issue with our drainage system that's having a problem, or is it just groundwater, or is it something else?
Every time we're out there, even if it's not raining, there's water at the pipe. So.
You can tell based on the topography, I mean, it looks like it drops off quite a bit.
Yeah.
So you could have water coming out
In the
from
back
the
of-
ledge or all that, yeah.
In the house that's on the, I would say just below the green arrow there, always wet in that backyard. Like you go back there and you can swish.
Yeah, so I think, and there's a kind of a hill kind of to the bottom of it. There's a hill further up, the Midway Drive goes up, and that's, I mean, based on what we've preliminary seen, it looks like there's just a lot of groundwater coming out.
And their issue is the driveways have been washing out too.
Yes.
And that's the other issue. The driveways have been washing
It's
out.
groundwater, and the only thing you really do is curb. What else? would you do?
Possibly.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you curb that, and then not much else you could do.
What's hard about it looks like as it comes out of Short Drive, the pipe just opens. And then, you know, it kind of drains in, and then there's like a drainage through the pipe. So it looks like it's coming from short, but we're just not really sure.
Eric, do we have right of ways through there for like that drainage that goes down there now? It's just been there forever. It's natural. Okay.
Yeah, I think another picture of this where it says Station Hall, or it's pointing to that. I think there's issues with that. That's not really well maintained.
Oh, I heard it's all.
There,
No,
and you know, it's not even on the road, it's on private property, so you can't always expect the homeowners to maintain that, like, you know, day to day, so.
It's a very big, it's a big look because it's coming out on the road, it's icy.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I think the DOT was upset because they had, their sump pumps drainage.
yeah, so I mean, they're trying to deal with the problem on their property. And it's just saying, it's gonna kick it off on the road. Yeah, you gotta do it. It's where's it gonna go? Yeah. Okay, all right, so that takes us through those were the ones we identified as the 7 priority projects. Some less critical ones I'll go through here, and you're on that sheet. I guess I'll just kind of hang back and forth between these slides, but Fort Brookview Court, which is up in the north area of town, near Payne Road. That is something where we just need to check our drainage system. There's been various times with the washouts in the backyard of that property, and we need to confirm that that's come from our drainage system or it's just naturally occurring. If you do have some roadway drainage up in that area, that maybe there's some issue there. So that's kind of something on investigation. 116 Milwaukee Avenue, there's that is basically, again, it's pretty rare occurrence, but when we do get a huge storm, then if PD has an overflow basin there, that overflows, or if it gets clogged at all, it can rush down that hill.
We already spent a ton of money on fixing them. I seem to recall. We already fixed this.
We did look in there. I don't think it's being maintained.
The excavators, because I remember this, Rich, you remember it came up. Right, it actually came up during the construction. They were having a problem with it, and they had different.
Oh, I think you're thinking of the one over at the school.
What's with the school? I thought that was the P, that was on the PD.
No, it was at the school.
So that's when we did it. Yeah, all right. I remember we had a problem in there that we already repaired.
So, yeah, so that I'm not sure if that's how much, to what extent that's due to that drainage system from the area. But that is most likely going to get solved with a berm.
Away from the guy's property.
Basically, essentially, because it's going, I believe there's like a preserve down there.
Yeah, we're discharging the water on our property, but his property kind of is like
A little piece that kind of juts
a
out.
one property that ups into
It does
the town property.
It does, well, it's not like it's not questionable. It really does come over.
Is it occurring often, or is it just in the big storms?
Just in the big storms.
Yeah, because they made that retention basin there for police department, and then they did that level.
So
That's something we could do like with our own public works. I'm assuming it's just.
I think we could maintain that. We definitely want to make sure we maintain that level.
So you can see if Pulaski could give us dirt for Pittsburgh. Burn down already.
There you go. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know if that's on anybody's, really add that to the capital plan right now, but maintaining that level spreader, right? Well, maybe it's not a capital, but, that building's not really moving, but that's, it's about 25 years now, but. Okay, so moving on, Holly Avenue Drainage Channel, this again is a small area, but, it's right back here behind this building. I believe there's a pipe that empties out. Anyway, there's a drainage channel. Oh, no, it's our drainage channel, and then it kind of continues as a swale from various backyards. It's been there forever. There's no easement, but occasionally it does flood. You know, we had when Bob Dibble was here, he had dredged that channel occasionally. I don't know. We might have to maybe the answer. Just try it every once in a while.
I think it's the history. It gets choked up and crosses the street and then goes down further. You know, it follows Colby Avenue, and then when it becomes Worcester Street, that's along down through where they built some new condos and stuff. That's where really the choke point was there.
The next on the list is the Bennett Pond Dam. In some cases, this might actually be considered a higher priority. We've fixed the urgency. We've repaired the bridge and spillway. But when we went out there to look at this with the drainage engineer, he suggested doing some kind of master plan to kind of come up with that. What I would like to see, if it's possible, is some solution that would avoid us having to dredge it so often. I don't know if that is possible. like talking under the pond,
I,
but,
I don't know if you can, but can you divert the river on the other side of the pond and then just have a flow into the pond, so you don't have all that river water going into the pond?
So sort
It's kind of splits the flow.
Yeah.
So you get a little, just to keep it on a flow, but the majority of the water to rice.
yeah.
I mean, I believe we own that property over there on the outside. And that way you don't have to deal with the big, spillway there.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's some, but, and again, that's for some engineer to look at.
So that would be looking at different options.
Yeah.
And then the Route 6 development area is a question we had from, a few different residents in the area who, basically were concerned primarily about the new, farms, yes, the farms at Stony Hill development, but also in general, whether it was a cumulative effect, various developments that wasn't being accounted for. So for example, when each development goes in, and this is not through our fund, it goes through planning and zoning, there's the developer has their own drainage engineer who has to design it to spec. We hire the drainage engineer to review it, make sure it's right, and all that has certain qualifications. The question is, because there's maybe like 4 or 5 sites there, is there a cumulative effect that's not being taken into account as we're looking at each one individually? And all, so there's questions around that. It's raised and wanted to make sure that drainage system had adequate for that. It's sort of achievable question. And then, so here's my grand finale, if it's grand or not. But basically, this is the table this is how we how did we come up with these priorities? Is what we looked at. Is we basically looked at the impact. We'll look forward to it at this. We have a whole massive spreadsheet, but couldn't put that up. Just too much. But essentially, we looked at the impact, and you can see that towards the top of this table, there's more properties affected. So as you get towards the bottom, these are issues that affect maybe 1 or 2 houses in various locations. And so in terms of prioritizing, we thought this was a big factor, is how many people are affected by this. But it was other things. Obviously the downtown culvert would affect more individual properties than say Colonial Drive, but we're getting, based on what we're getting from looking at the conditions of the field, we consider Colonial Drive. And so I wish we had more costs here. I would like to be able to fill in this table completely. But unfortunately, all we have at the moment are some of the costs for the top priority.
Are those quotes? Is it which ones do we have actual quotes for the studies?
Colonial Drive is an actual quote that we could be ready to pull the trigger on. And all these other 3,
There's kind of happiness that we came up with.
yeah, I think they're based on fire.
The downtown culvert, the cost is based on the proposal of the receiving L5 plus a lot of
Just escalation.
escalation added to it.
We got the size, we got to do an RFP.
What was that?
Yeah, if we were gonna go out, yeah, I'd have to go for it. I mean, the study for Colonial Drive is not just.
Well, I mean, personally, and again, this is just me speaking. I mean, I'm fine with Colonial Drive if you have an estimate. I think you guys know me well enough by now. I don't like shooting darts in the dark. So my suggestion would be, why don't we get actual bids to do this study and find out what they're gonna charge us to do it on these 3 locations? Because the worst thing that could happen is you tell me that the study for downtown is gonna be 60,000, and then you come back saying we're 20,000 short. That's kind of tough. Well, I don't think the board of finance is gonna be happy.
Just because of the cost we have to go on. It's,
Right. So what I'm saying is, why don't we get, like I said, if you know, if we want to get going on Colonial Drive, I'm fine with that. But why don't we actually get bids on these other projects so we know exactly what we're talking about? I think it makes sense. I mean, just in case, you know, we have a grant or there's another 1,000-year flood and FEMA's saying, if you have these things ready to go, and we're ready to go that way, you know, we're not behind. You know, there's being fiscally conservative and there's your responsibility. And I think if we know 50 plus homes are affected, we really should at least have a plan in place so we know how we're going to deal with it. And then we could actually, you know, take care of it. So that would be my suggestion. I don't know if you think, Dan.
Oh, that's exactly why we're here. That's what.
Yeah.
Together.
I mean, it's obvious there's it's been a problem. It's been kicked down the road for years. All of these have. You know, I've been in town 25 years. I've seen these streets flooding. You know, that's it. Richie's got to be. He's 78. 78 years. I know. We got to talk. We got to bring Don. You know, Don Taylor. We got to bring him in. I think he's been in town 90 years now. Same.
Eric, you know, when you get those other prices, if you want, you know, I would recommend to you, if you think some of those other lists that you went through, you know, to add them or to have like an alternate price for what it would cost to do some of the ones that you think are, you know, the Saxon ones, one that is a flooding area all the time. So,
Yeah, I mean that's in a flood zone though. I mean, how much money do you pump into a losing proposition, Rich? I mean, it's an actual flood zone.
but it gets worse too.
Well, that's why, that was kind of the point of this, is that before we went any further, and it's, you know, as Luke had said, Jen knows this, we wanted to kind of try to get as comprehensive a look for you guys to see, okay, what does the whole townwide picture look like?
I think we'll have our plate full with the four that you've identified. I mean, I think that's a full plate in itself. I mean, because how long will the engineering studies will take a couple months, right?
Yeah.
And then design after that's another couple of months.
Yeah.
I mean,
It takes
time, right?
It takes
I don't know
time.
how much time it takes just to do a simple, single family construction. All of your way. This is, you know, affecting
Yeah,
a lot of.
so except for Colonial, we held off on everything else, so you can see, this is kind of, that's exactly what we're looking for, Brian, is that kind of feedback.
Yeah. So I think we'll.
Is this a work section tonight? Because it's referred to regular.
Which is coming up.
Next meeting.
We'll wait for the next meeting.
Yeah. We're doing it first. Second. Yeah. I think when we get to that point, we probably talk about one of those lots, one item. And then do we do an RFP for somebody to do the engineering study for the other three? Or do you guys want to get quotes?
You get
Quotes to kind of pin this down.
well, if we need it.
Well, I mean, we're talking way over 50 grand for, except that one, unless we just want to do that, I think it'd be less, but.
Yeah, close. I mean, especially if, was there an engineering firm that you're talking to who did some of the original work? Were there
Yeah.
some sort of cost savings? You know,
Yeah,
that'd be easy to explain.
Yeah. Yes, the firm that we have the quote for Colonial Drive, we also looked
Yeah,
at.
so if we have to do a bid waiver, we could, especially if they already have some of the work done.
Yeah.
Right, that probably makes sense.
So we'll get the quotes and then we'll decide.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right, so what are you trying to do?
Yeah, we could add it to the agenda.
And we have to agenda.
Yeah.
It's regular. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
If you can, are you able to, for this.
I don't think we have,
Colonial Drive to,
I don't think we refer to me, but since we
no, I
are,
mean, the next meeting, you can approve for.
Yes.
For block findings.
I think it's. Yeah,
Great, great.
yeah, and then
I'll tell you to save for the meeting, Eric.
Yeah.
I might find you to go through the presentation one more time in this space, you know.
the whole point is to get it.
You look paler.
All right, well, thank you
All right,
very
thank
much. Being especially there's no other items to come before it, I guess. Okay, motion adjourned.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We stand adjourned at, let's see what time it is. 6:45.
On
All right,
time.
wow.
Look at that.
The board of selectmen says yes,